So, welcome everyone. It's been a while. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Adrian. I have been streaming a little bit of Rust over the last few years, and I have a feeling I'm going to get back into it and do a little bit more. I've improved my stream setup as well, so I've bought some equipment, and I've moved house. I bought a home. It's been a while, but I'm going to start getting a little bit more serious about streaming, and I'm going to do some more of this stuff around Rust, but I'm also going to do Vulcan. So I'm going to try and get into some graphics programming as well, which should be fun. I don't have a graphics background at all, and so I'm testing out the new stream setup. So I've got a couple of things to test. I've got a mic now. I bought a really expensive mic, the Shure 7MD. What is it? Sorry, SM7B, I think it is. SM7B. Yeah, I'm looking at the box over here. Beautiful mic. I've set it up in such a way that I can actually work with it from a distance, so doesn't need to be right in my face. But I'm playing with the gain levels and what have you. Got a great Frameworks mount for it, or boom, or whatever you call it. So that's really nice. And then I have a Sony A7 III, and I bought that a long time ago because I've been into photography for quite a long time. And I traveled to Norway a few years ago, and I ended up taking a cheaper camera. Actually, I've got it here. I bought this little thing in the what is it? A Sony. I think it's an Alpha 7300 or something. I don't think it even has a battery in it. Oh no, sorry, 6300, Alpha 6300. And I don't know if it'll focus. Yeah. Anyway, it's pretty dusty. Haven't used it for a while, and so this thing I bought in the airport. I think it was on the way. I think it was stopping in Qatar or somewhere in the Middle East. Anyway, and I bought it on the way because I was going to film or try and photograph the Northern Lights. And so I ended up getting some decent shots of the Northern Lights on that thing. But I've always been into photography, so I've had SLRs. So before digital, I'm old. So I had SLR single lens reflex cameras. I had a Ricoh and a Sony. And so anyway, I bought this, a Canon actually. Canon EOS, whatever it was, 10D or something. Anyway, the old people on this stream would be able to tell me if that makes sense. But anyway, and so I ended up getting a decent camera. But obviously got a mirrorless camera. That's where it's at. So the Sony Alpha 7 III. And I've got a pretty fast lens on it. It's a 20mm Sony lens. It's a G lens, f1.8. So I've got it wide open to f1.8 to get a bit of depth of field going. You can see a guitar in the background, and outside my home here, I've got a hedge down the side, which is nicely blurred out. And you can see my GPU, my overpriced 4080 Ti, in my machine here right next to me. Anyway, and so that is all just reuse. I didn't buy any of that stuff, but it's cool to set it up. I've got an Elgato key light, and I've also got another arm off the side of it. And that, for me, that's just a nice little setup. It's not perfect, but it's good. The key light gives me some natural light, especially when I'm starting to alt tab across different screens that have different brightnesses, and that should hopefully help eliminate the kind of really bright changes, quick changes in brightness. So that's good. I've got an overpriced keyboard. I've got I won't go into the details now, but I've got I earn pretty good money, so I tend to splurge on stuff. Anyway, expensive keyboard, half decent mouse. I bought a Go XLR as well because with this mic, because it's only XLR, I wanted to be able to have control over that and change the equalizer settings on it. So I've done that. I've set that up. I've only just set all this up today. The boom, like the microphone mount, the microphone, and a few other bits and pieces are all new. The Go XLR, all in the last week. And it looks nice, doesn't it? I think it's 4K. So what I'll do is I'm going to be streaming in 4K, hopefully, if I've got my settings right. Actually, let's have a quick look at that. What am I streaming in? Looks like I'm streaming to YouTube in 4K. Yeah, anyway. That's the plan. So testing out the mic, testing out the camera, the lighting. It's 5 o'clock in the evening here. We're moving into winter in Australia. I live in Sydney, Australia. And so it's getting cold and dark outside. And so you get that lighting. I've got a couple of other things that I can do. So what I'd like to do is get a little bit more mood lighting going on. And so I've got, Philips do pretty decent kind of lighting. So I've got a light behind me. You can kind of see that changing. It's not very bright. Night light. Okay. A reading light. Anyway, and there's all these different things you can do here. Under the tree, whatever that means. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff. So I could do Dreamy Dusk. Oof. Sounds good, doesn't it? Anyway, we can play with Dreamy Dusk maybe. So that's part of it. Now the plan. Oops, dropping my phone here. Now the plan is to get into some pretty serious programming. For those that have seen my channel before, yes, I'm wearing glasses now and I wasn't before. But also, I was getting into Rust. So I've programmed professionally on and off for 20 years or thereabouts, probably from the late 90s. I was writing C++ in the late 90s. That's how old that language is and how old I am. And then I've programmed in Java and, professionally, and C# even when .NET was new, back in, I don't know when that was, like 2005 or 6 or something. And then obviously I've programmed in Python, and I learned Haskell at university in 2001 or something. So functional, so different paradigms, Scala, done a whole bunch of different programming, and Perl 5. So I don't know what that says about me. But Perl 5, I always hated Perl. I had to learn it because it was part of the software stack that I was working on at the time and I was being paid for. So I learned Perl 5. And I ended up kind of coming to understand some of the beauty behind the design of Perl 5. I got into Perl 6, believe it or not, which was actually a thing that Larry Wall and a bunch of open source folks were trying to build and did build, actually. So, and there was a language that ended up being called Rakudo, and I contributed to that. So I think if you go and look at, let's have a look. Let's go to full desktop, the full extravaganza. Let's have a look. So Perl 6, for example, go to perl6.org, raku.org. And if you go to GitHub and you look at the Raku repo, which will be in here somewhere, Raku doc, Rakudo. I don't know. I've lost track of all this stuff. I used to be quite into it. Contributing. Okay, cool. License, readme, credits. So I'm actually in the credits, and because my name starts with A and D, I'm number 2. This abstract guy, I'll have to convince him to change his name. But anyway, I'm number 2 there. But so I contributed to Rakudo. I wasn't a big contributor, but I remember Larry Wall reached out to me. He goes by the name of Tim Toady, or used to, and asked me if I wanted to put my real name in there, and I said yes. So anyway, I did Perl 5, and then I played around with Perl 6 and contributed a bit. And Rust is actually quite beautiful. So I've been starting to get back into that, and because my job is, I'm in technology, and I've been working in technology for big tech. So, I worked at Amazon Web Services for nine and a half years. I'm working at Microsoft at the moment, and I've been there for 3.5 years. So what's that? Let's call it 13 years. And then prior to that, Oracle and a bunch of places. So I've worked at a few very large, big US tech companies. And before that, I was always in tech. But because I've been doing that for a long time, I'm actually in a leadership position, and I have teams that report to me, and that's great. But it means that I don't get as hands-on as I would love to. And so a bit of this is about me just kind of getting back on the tools and making sure that I'm kind of sharp. And a bit of it is because I've always done this, and I know a fair bit about programming. I'm not a Jonathan Blow or a Soding or these guys that stream all the time on YouTube and Twitch and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you learn a lot over 20 years of doing this stuff. So that's the plan. Now, what I've decided to do is, so I've got, I'll just go back to my sort of full desktop view here. So what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do is build something that will teach me about computer graphics using Rust on Windows initially, just because I'm running Windows 11. I don't have a preference for OS, so Windows 11 is what I'm running, and so I've got this little project, and I've got some grand plans for this thing. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm just starting to play around with Vulcan. Now, Vulcan's pretty cool. I like Vulcan, but it's low level, and it's takes a bit of getting used to. So I've been writing a bit of Vulcan. This thing literally just opens a window. So I'm using Winit, which is a Rust library to kind of abstract the underlying Windows manager / Windows subsystem, whatever you want to call it. I'm using Ash as the binding into Rust, binding into Vulcan, which is a fairly low level binding. Like, it doesn't add a whole bunch of extra complexity on top. There are some other really nice libraries that I looked at, like Volcano, which looks really cool, but it seems to kind of have a very opinionated way of building on top of the Vulcan API underneath. And I didn't really want an opinionated way. I wanted to sort of learn Vulcan. And the benefit of doing that, in my mind, and everyone has a different opinion, is you can just follow like a standard Vulcan tutorial. So this is the one from, I think it's from Kronos, the guys that, I don't know who this person is. Let's have a look. Who is this person? Don't know. Vulcan introduction. I mean, he has a fantastic beard. Wild.io. That's pretty funny. Wild.io. Okay. Well, anyway, that's anyway, he's written this pretty fantastic tutorial, and it's reasonably up to date. And so because I'm using Ash, what that lets me do is hopefully do the minimum translation between the Vulcan API proper, so where you just follow the Vulcan kind of C++ kind of standard library and all the rest that goes with that. It should be a fairly kind of logical direct mapping from that to the API that is exposed in Rust via the Ash library, which is the whole point. Like, I don't really want to go and learn another library. It is very low level though, so I might regret that decision. So anyway, I'm playing around with this right now just to see how it all goes. And right now I've got a little program here, and basically all it does is, so I've got a struct for my Vulcan app, not very many members in there, and then I implement it. I've got a new method and a init window and main loop. I implement the drop trait. Is it a drop trait? I don't know. Yep, it's a drop trait. Okay, cool. So when the Vulcan app struct, or when that struct gets cleaned up, drop is called, and I destroy the Vulcan instance, and that's all I've done. And then the main entry here is effectively just giving it a name, and then creating an event loop, which is a winit. Is it? Where is it? Yeah. So it's a winit struct or capability, and then I create the window, and then I because I instantiate the app, I go straight into main loop, and main loop just pulls for events that are happening, and then I respond to a close and print something to the window, and print something to console, and that's it, or stand it out. And so it's all very straightforward and basic. There's nothing really interesting, nothing too interesting going on here. So cargo build, and if I run it, it's basically just going to pop up a window which responds to events like close. Now, I've never tried to do Alt F4, but I guess we could try. So yeah, cool. That's what you would expect. And so anyway, this is kind of what I'm doing to start. And so the idea is that I'm going to go and build some stuff in Vulcan using Ash, and just see how far I go. So that's it, really. And if you're interested in sort of learning more about it with me, please feel free. I'd love to sort of just kind of learn with other people. I don't profess to be an expert, and I would love to kind of learn from other people that know more than me. But at the same time, I kind of want to learn stuff from scratch myself. And if you've seen any of my other videos where I've kind of built very bad crypto libraries like AES 256 and all that sort of stuff directly from the specs in Rust, and I've built some really bad libraries that handle astronomy data like FITS data from NASA, and there's some stuff on my site. I translated a C++ tutorial for a ray tracer into Rust, and again, it's not probably very good, but it is what it is. And I've got my standard Rust books. They're all a bit old now, and you probably almost never buy a hard copy of those, but I did. So that's the idea, and you'll see me sort of post and kind of do some work here probably once a week at this point. I'm still working. My work is pretty full on, and I'm pretty senior at Microsoft, so I have a lot to juggle and a lot to do there, and I have a young family now, and I have all the other things that come with that. So it's going to be a little bit of a case of, when I get the time, I'll put something here, but I'm going to try and hold myself accountable to doing something every week or thereabouts. I think that's fair, and that will force me to kind of continue to learn and to improve. So that's the plan, folks. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, just post it below, and expect a couple more updates from me, and some weekly streams starting pretty soon. Thanks, everyone. Speak soon.